Welcome back to the $1 million challenge, where I start off with $1 and try to work my way up to $1 million through gambling. If you're new here, here's what I'm doing. Just to make it real quick. I start off with $1. I try to get 1% profit every single day through a gambling website, which I can't mention the name of. But along the way, what I've done is I've implemented outside casino apps like FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, some other casino apps that I use that are local to my area. I claim deposit matches, wagering bonuses, any sort of promotions to add to the balance. So none of this is my money. It's all free money. I'm using house money. Everything up until this point is all from the casinos. I have not deposited any money. I do sports betting to have a little bit of like a positive return on the house edge, because purely using casino games, it has a negative expected value over time. So I have the casino games I'm running, which have been all right over time. I'm going to dive deeper in the end of this video into some bankroll updates. But like I said, up until this point, I've been doing sports betting with a very small portion of the balance. Typically like 0.3 to 0.5% of my bankroll is the base bet I'll use for sports betting. I claim those bonuses, promotions from those casino apps to get free house money to add to the bankroll. And then we have monthly, weekly bonuses, any other type of bonuses that are offered by the website we use. And then I've deposited money into a savings account, as you can see in this column here. This is the USDC balance I have. And then in the Bitcoin balance, that's pretty self-explanatory. I've deposited money into Bitcoin as an investment. So we have some investments, we have betting, like sports betting, gambling, kind of what we're working with there. A bunch of different stuff just to diversify the portfolio, or the bankroll, I should say. But yeah, so adding up all of those current account balances, trying to give a word for that, we're sitting at $1,102 starting off today's video on day 185. We're about 6 months into this challenge, so we made a lot of progress. We're supposed to be at $535 at this point if we were trying to get that 1% every single day, so we're way ahead of that. But I'm going to dive deeper into some bankroll updates at the end of this video and show some bonuses that I've claimed since the last episode. So if you want to stay tuned to that, I'm going to have a little bit of an update on that. But I know you're here for some gameplay. So what I'm doing today is I'm running a bracket. I've been doing this for a couple videos so far. And what I'm doing is I took my Discord community's strategies. They all submitted a bunch of strategies. I took 16 of them, and we're running a bracket to see which one has the best performing strategy that wins consistently over time. So today we have two strategies we're going to put head to head against each other, and whatever one performs better, we're going to move on to the next round. So we have a Baccarat strategy and a free bet blackjack strategy. We're going to do the Baccarat strategy first. This was submitted by Dragon, or Dragoon. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that exactly. He's one of our moderators in the Discord. I'm gonna say Dragon for obvious reasons. I think that just sounds a lot better, so I'm gonna go with Dragon. We're gonna call you Dragon. But we got a Baccarat strategy. It's a little bit complicated. It's in the Discord if you want to look at it. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. He explains it in his videos as well, and there's also like a PDF document in my Discord server, which you can join in the description as well to read the entire PDF document. But I'm gonna explain it along the way. Okay, so like I said, the stop loss today is $44 on our $1,102 bankroll. Basically, that's 4% of the bankroll. I risk 4% of the bankroll to get 1% profit. Our 1% profit goal is $11. The way his strategy works for Baccarat is I need 6 progressions because I have to martingale, and I have to start off with $1. That's the base bet. So for today, to make things equal and to make things work for the challenge, we're starting off with a $63 balance. That is above our 4% stop loss, but I need 6 progressions for the strategy, so that's why it's a little bit higher than usual. I know we're changing up the plan for the whole challenge, but this is just like a one-time thing just for this to work. I can't bet anything lower than $1 on here, so that's the way we're going to do it. I'm going to do the same thing for the next strategy too, to keep them both equal. They're both going to have a $63 balance. So today might be a little bit more aggressive than usual, but you know, we're just gonna rip it. That's how we do things around here. We change things when we need to, we adapt. So this strategy, I'll explain a little bit, and then I'll walk you guys through how this works. So basically what this is, it's a mix of two strategies. So you have the player bet, player, banker strategy that people run. And then you have the historical pattern that you look at the previous bets from like the previous column. And I'll explain this as I go through, but you're basically combining two separate strategies into one. He calls it the golden strategy, or the golden pattern. He calls it the golden pattern. So I did a fresh deck here. This is a fresh deck. We're doing first person Baccarat, so I don't have to do a live session and try to keep up with everything and explain everything within like 15 seconds. But first things first, we're gonna keep track of up here. We're gonna look at this section up here. We're gonna look at these columns. That's how we're gonna place all our bets. So for the first column, we're not gonna bet at all. I'm just gonna run through these, but we want to follow the player bet, or sorry, we want to follow the player banker, banker, continuation, or that strategy, right? And then every time it hits that strategy, we restart and recount. So we would bet player, or not bet, but we're looking for player. So I hit player. That's the player banker, banker line. So every time that hits, you recount back to the beginning. So we're gonna go back to player and reset the count. And still player. Still player. Just keep resetting it. So it's a tie. So we'd still stick with player. I'm pretty sure ties don't count. So that was supposed to be a player bet, but it hit banker. So that means the next we've continued that continuation. So now we would bet like banker technically. That's what we're looking for. And it hits player. So now we go back to the player. And since that lines up with the previous line, we're looking at this box right here. So our next bet, this should have been like player, it didn't hit. Then we should have bet banker, which didn't hit. So that's back to player on the player banker banker pattern. It's on like the second portion of the players. I know this is really confusing. It's complicated, but it'll make sense as I start betting. So since this is supposed to be player in that lineup, that means this matches up with the previous history. So now we're looking at the history side of this. So I'm gonna bet on player, and we're gonna deal $1. And banker wins. So since banker won, we just keep following the history pattern for this entire column until we hit. And we're gonna martingale it. So we're gonna rebet and double up. And we lose again. So we're gonna follow the history still, and we're supposed to keep track of this too. So this should have been player. So this is technically still banker. We want to keep track of that, and we continuously look at that the whole way through for like the next column. So we want to keep track of that. So this is supposed to be banker, but we're following the previous bet from the last column historically, which is still player. So we're gonna rebet that and double up. And we lose again. Okay. So that banker did hit on the continuation. So the count is still, we're resetting that back to players since that count hit. But we're still playing historically. And if there's a tie, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do exactly. I forget. So I'm probably just not gonna bet this. Or no, I think you go back one, so it's still player. So let me rebet, double up. I think that's how this works. I might be messing the strategy up a little bit, and it's a little bit confusing. So I'm trying my best here to make it work properly. But that was supposed to be a player bet in the continuation on the count. And it hit, so we're doing another player bet. Since we profited in this column, we don't bet until we hit the next column. So we're not placing any bets until we reach the next column. You win one win per column. So we're on a player bet now. So we'll do a no bet. Player hit, so it's still player on the count. And now we missed the player, so now it's a banker on the count, and that matches up with the previous history. So since those two match up, we're gonna bet $1 on banker and deal. And banker wins, which is good and easy. So for the rest of this line here, we're just gonna not bet, but we're gonna keep track of the count. So since banker hit, we're back to player. Player hits, so we're still on player. Every time that count hits, we just reset. So it's a tie, still on player, still on player, still on player, and it hit banker. So the next one should be banker, and that lines up with the previous history on the count. So this was supposed to be player, it missed. So then on the player banker banker count, this is supposed to be banker, and that matches up with the previous history. So that's how this works. I know it's a little bit confusing, but his video kind of explains a little bit better if you want to watch it. It took me a while to pick this up though. They got natural 9, so we missed that. So now we follow the history. So the next one's player. So we do $2. We get a double up on player. And we get an 8 win. So that was supposed to be banker, didn't hit, and we're back to player, so that did hit, so the count's back to player. Still on player. And that was a banker, so next one be banker. And then back to player on the count. Still on player, and history has a player. So the count's on player, and this matches up with the previous one. So we're gonna bet $1 on player. And it's a tie. So based on history, we're going with player. Same bet, since that was a tie, we don't have to double up. And banker wins. So on the count, we're on banker, but the player's on the history, so we're gonna double back up with player. And player wins. Okay. So on the count, we got player. So that's supposed to be player, banker, player, player, banker, player, player, missed, banker, banker. So next one's banker. Just getting back to the count. Since we won on this line here, we're gonna keep going with no bets. But that hits the count, so we're back to player. Still on player since that won. Still on player. And then coming back up here, since we have a tie, we go to the previous one, so that's banker. And we're on player right now on the count, so we don't bet. Still on player. And the count's player, but the historical bet was banker, so we don't bet on this. It's still player, and that matches up with the history. So the count's player, history's player, we put a bet down. And we lose. So this would be a banker bet since that lost. And we just keep following the history. So we double this up on banker, which is the historical bet, and we lose. So that should have been player, banker, so back to player, and we're following the history. We deal that. player wins. So player, player, banker, player. So we reset the count. We'll do a no bet. So still one player, and we're back to player up here. So that matches up with the history. That's where we're at in the count. So we do a player bet. So we can pull up the live stats too, just to show where we're at. And that did hit. I wasn't watching it, but it did hit. So we got the player there. So now we just keep following the count until the next column. Okay, so the next, that was supposed to be player again, but it was banker. So we would look at banker now. Banker would hit. So then it's back to player. Then it's to banker. That hits, so back to player. It hits, and then still player, we reset. So matching the history, that's player bet. So steal that, $1. Okay, so we lose that. So on the account, this is a banker bet, but we're still following the history. So the count's always just, we're keeping track of it, but when we place our bet, we're starting to bet on the history. So now we do a $2 banker bet. I'm still just keeping track of the count. It doesn't matter now. We get a tie. So we're gonna keep betting banker, because that's what's coming up in the history. We get a natural 9. So we gotta double this up again. And we lose that, so we gotta double up again. This is supposed to be player, banker, player, so the count resets back to player. We get another tie. So the count's still on player, but we are betting player now, following the history. And banker won. So this would be a banker bet. And on the count, keep losing track of it. This would be player. Resets the player, so this should be a banker bet on the count. Go natural 9. Okay, we're losing a lot here. And then a tie, so we go back to the previous banker. We gotta double this up. I think it's our last bet actually. And it looks like it hits, since the graph shows us ahead of time. But on the count, we're supposed to be at, keep losing track of the count, man. It's hard to keep track of that. Let's see here. I don't think it matters because we're on hand 50. I know once we get farther in the shoe, we can just reshuffle because we're about to get a new shoe anyways. So he said once you get through the shoe, you don't want to be stuck at the end of the shoe trying to like double up your bets and everything, and then you have to like bring those bets over the next shoe. It gets really confusing. So we're just gonna start with a new shoe here. And again, we're gonna start off with the first 6. We don't bet on it all. We just go through those. We're keeping track of the count. So player's the first bet that hits. We're still on player. Reset the count. Player hits. Reset the count back to player. Still on player. So banker would hit, and then now the next bet would be banker on the player, banker, player, player, banker, banker bet, and that misses. So then the next one, so it'll be player, or yeah, player, banker. So that does hit. So it's back to player. Reset the count. We get a tie. Player. Player. So we're still on player, and looking historically, we have a player bet. So we're gonna do a $1 bet. So this match up, and it's a tie. So we're still gonna follow the historical, which is a player bet. So same bet, don't have to double up since it was a tie. And we lose that. So following history, we're still on player. And this would have been player. So the count's on banker. So banker hits on the count, but we lose that bet. So the count's back to player. Historically, we gotta bet banker. Double up. It looks like we lose this one too. So count's still on player. We bet historically to banker, and then we double this up, and we win. Okay. So player. So next up would be banker. We don't bet that. So still banker, and then we have a tie. Ties. So I think that we bet banker because we count back from the ties. We don't count the ties. So let's put $1 on banker since that's where we're at right now. Banker wins. Okay. We're trying to get to $11, so we're a little bit over halfway there. But we're going to reset the count to player and just skip through these since we already won this column here. So this can last a long time, as you can see. It's quite complicated, but we're still on player. And then next bet would be banker. That hits, so we're back to restarting the count at player. We missed, so we'd be on banker on the count. And that hits, so we're back to player. And that does not match up with the historical bet. So on the count, we're on player, and we're waiting for it to match up. So the player hits, we're betting player. The player restarts in the count. That matches up historically, so we put $1 on player. And we lose that. So the next bet would be banker on the count. And we're falling historically, so we're gonna do $2 on banker. And that hits. So now, on the count, we're back to player. We don't bet the rest of this column since we won. Once you win in a column, you don't bet there. So we're gonna just keep going. The count's back to player. They get hit banker. So the next one will be banker on the count. And that hits. So now we're back to player on the count. Misses, so we would have banker, which does not line up with the history since we're on the new column. Doesn't line up, so we're looking for banker. And that misses, so now we'd be betting player. So it would be I think it was player, banker. We're gonna have player, banker, then we do player, player. That's how we'd run it. Okay. It's hard to I keep losing track of this. It's really hard to keep track of. So the player hits. So now we'd be back to reset the count to player. So now it'd be a banker bet, and that lines up with the historical. And we lose that. So player, should be banker. We're back to player. We're betting historically still. And we win that. And this is still to player. That hit, so then we reset the player, banker, player, player. So now we're on player again. And that misses, so now would be banker. That misses, banker again. It ties. Banker again, and we have banker as the historical, so those match up. And we lose that. So back to a player bet, and we're following the history. So we got $2 on player. And this would be a banker bet historically. Looks like this hits. Okay. We're almost at $11. I know this is pretty long, pretty complicated, but we have player, player, which missed, banker, which hits. So we're back to player. We're almost done. So player hits again, so we're back to player on the count, and historically that matches up with the previous player. So we bet $1, and that misses. So the historic, or yeah, the account would be banker. We're betting historically, and since there's a tie, we go back to player. So let's double that up. And banker hits on the count, so we're resetting the count back to player. Player, banker, so that hits, so we're back to player, and we're falling historically. So the count's on player. And we double up our bet. We lose again. So the count's on banker going forward, and we're betting banker historically. We lose again. Historically, we're still on banker. I gotta double this up. Back to player on the count. We lose this one. And going back to the historical is on player. So this is our last bet if we lose this. And we lost it. Dang, man. Well, I may have been doing that a little bit wrong. I think I did that correctly based on what his strategy is. And unfortunately, I lost it. So yeah, that sucks. It was very in-depth, very long, and we took an L on that. But yeah, I'm gonna move on, answer this in the sheet, and then we'll move on to the next strategy. Okay, so the Baccarat strategy did not work out on day 185. So on day 186, we're sitting at $1,051 in the bankroll, which are really close to that $1,000 limit. I'm not trying to hit that. Yeah, that strategy is complicated. I don't know if I ran that exactly how I'm supposed to. I know he's very profitable with that strategy in the Discord. He always talks about it, but I don't know if I just ran it wrong or if I just got unlucky. Either way, I'm gonna run with the same balance, $63 as I did yesterday, just to keep things simple with the next strategy, which is a free bet blackjack strategy by LC1 investor. He's an investor apparently, so you know, pretty sick. But it's a free bet blackjack strategy, and let me show you guys what he said to do. So really, he said to go in $10 in tables, $5 per hand. If you lose two, you're done. Most of the time, you can win lots and run up $5 bets. If you're feeling good, you can go all in with 5 or 10. So free bet blackjack, he mentioned at the tables. So we're gonna hop into the website and run it. So we're hopping into free bet blackjack. I found a table that's $5 free bet. He recommended using the tables and not playing the infinite version. So he said to do $5 per hand. If you lose two, you're done. So I guess instead of running the whole stop loss, we're just gonna go down. I was gonna run this until we hit the profit goal, just do $5 hands. But his strategy is saying if you lose two, you're done. So I'm just gonna go with that. If we lose two hands, I guess we'll just cut our losses. Since our bankroll has been dipping pretty significantly recently, it might be a good idea to actually stop at that stop loss. But yeah, definitely a different strategy. So we're still shuffling. I'll probably come back once we're done shuffling, but we're gonna try to get, I guess, 2 wins. That's kind of our goal here. It's either 2 wins or 2 losses. We're going for $11. So technically, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we need at least $11, and we're doing $5 hands. So maybe I'll have to do one of them at $6 just to get that $11 profit goal. But I guess we'll go for the $5 first. So that'll be the plan. I'll come back in a second once we start dealing. Okay, so we're about to start dealing. I'm ready to deal. So we're gonna do either 2 wins or 2 losses. That's how we're gonna run the strategy. This is what he suggested. I would like to at least hit our profit goal, but if we go down $10, it's not too bad. It's not terrible. We definitely won't go below $1,000. That's all I'm worried about. So hopefully we can just get 2 quick wins. That'd be sick. Starting off with an ace. I like that. I like that a lot. Can we just get a blackjack? Call it easy. Okay, we got a 19. I think we're just gonna stand on that. I'm gonna check the sheet every single time just to be safe, just so I know I'm 100% correct on what I'm doing. Against a 7, that is a stand. People tend to call me out when I make the wrong bet, so I'm just double checking everything and just hoping we get 2 easy, quick wins and call it a day. Finally get a win. We've had so many losses recently on this challenge, so it's not terrible. The bankroll is still really good, but I just hate taking so many losses in a row like that. It just hurts the balance a lot. After we made a lot of progress, then you just get wiped after a few sessions, more than a few sessions. I think we lost like probably 5 or 6 in the past couple episodes. So it does hurt, but that's just the name of the game. That's gambling, and it's a losing game overall. That's kind of what I'm going to talk about in the end of this video, is about a bankroll update and just kind of my plans going forward. So stay tuned for that. I mean, I could talk a little bit about it now, just since we got some dead space to fill in. But I realize, and I'll show you some numbers later, that gambling in and of itself has not been super profitable on this website. But the balance is still going up, and I'll explain why, and just some ideas going forward that I might switch or pivot to, and I kind of want your guys' thoughts on it. But I'll get more into it later. I don't want to mess up the gameplay here. We'll just stick with it. That's crazy seeing that many hands on the table. That is nuts. Hoping that he just flips a 10, call it easy. I probably shouldn't be having the live stats up because I think it'll show when he flips. Sometimes the live stats like updates early. I don't like seeing the outcome before it happens. But yeah, I guess we are playing free bet too. I didn't even think about that. So we do get like free doubles and free splits. He does push on 22, I believe. That's how this works though. So there's the live stats that they updated. We did win that hand. So this next hand we have to go for $6 because we got to get $11 for the day. That's our 1% profit goal. So we're gonna do a $6 hand, and we either win 2 or lose 2. So if we get a win here, we're good for the day. If we lose, then we gotta keep playing. So hopefully this is quick. I know the videos sometimes are very long, but it just depends on the strategies I run. Start off with a 6 isn't the best thing ever, but we'll see what our next card is. He's getting an ace. I don't like that. Okay, I'll take a 9. That's not terrible, but the fact that he has ace, I don't really like that. We're gonna take no insurance on it. I never take insurance, and he had the blackjack. Hate to see it. All right, we're gonna stick with our $6 bet. Start off with a 10, not too bad. He has a 10 as well. And we got 17. That is kind of tough. We'll stand on that. The dude next to us got 2 aces. Free split, that is pretty sick. Good for him, man. Alright, a lot of people backed out of the table too, so I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. And we lose that again. So I'm gonna stick with our $6 bet. If we lose this one, we are done, because that'll be 2 losses in a row. So hopefully we get some wins coming up. We need like 3 wins now to come back to our profit goal. So we have to win this one to come back to even, and win 2 more to get our $11. So we need a good win streak here. We just got 3 losses in a row. So now we need 3 wins. Can we get it? I don't know. We'll see. Another 17. Not a huge fan of that against the 9, but we'll stand. Play by the book. And he's an 18, and we lost. So that's 2 losses in a row. That was pretty tough. Very like simple strategy, but just not. Just have to get lucky with that and get 2 wins in a row. And we got 4 losses in a row, which wiped us out. So I'm gonna enter that into the sheet, and then I'll be right back, and we'll wrap up the video. Okay, so day 186 was a loss. We lost the blackjack strategy, and then we also lost the Baccarat strategy. So overall, from the website today, we lost $66 gambling, and then on the video, we lost $63 just from starting off at 1,102 and ended up at 1,038. We lost $63 since we had a little bit of bonuses that helped carry the balance a little bit. It saved us like $3 from the gambling today, so not a ton, but yeah, we're down $63 in the video. Looking at the bracket, so both strategies lost today. So what I did the last time this happened is when two strategies lost, we looked at the previous winning strategies that didn't move on. So I already compared these in the previous episode, and we moved on strat 1, which was the auto limbo strategy based on the parameters. So that we did, the orange was the best out of these. So basically these are just comparing the final profit and loss, how many bets were placed, and then the lowest max dip. So this is just like to find out which strategy is the best performing out of those winners. So we did, the orange is the number 1 in each category, and then the blue is number 2. So based on that, strategy 1 moved on previously, and strategy 4 will move on to the new bracket spot because I had the first highest profit out of all 3 winning strategies that did not move on so far, and also had the second lowest bets. It was an auto strategy, so it did have a lot of bets, but it's lower than the last one here. So this had 2 out of the 3 that can move it up. So the first one had 3. It had first place and 2 second places. This had a first place and a second place out of the rankings, out of those factors that we determine the better strategy. So I know it's confusing. If you've been watching these, you understand what I'm saying. If you've been watching these bracket videos. So that means that the OG roulette grind will move on to the next round. So I'll paste that over here, and that'll be pretty much all the strategies. I'm going to run my strategies. These are my 2 favorite ones. I'm going to do that in the next episode. I'm going to put my 2 favorite strategies head to head to see which one performs better. And we've seen those work in the past. I'm really hoping that those actually both win next time and boost the balance. But yeah, these are all the community submissions that moved on. So after we run my strategies, I just had to do that to make the bracket even because we only had 14 submitted, and this is a 16 style bracket. So after we do that, we'll move on one of my strategies, and then we'll compete all the winning strategies in the next round. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I do want to talk about the bankroll for a little bit of an update. So 2 things. First thing is this. Okay, so we have our bonuses from the last episode. This is everything I claimed since the last episode. So we have a monthly bonus of about $14, a weekly bonus of $2.45. So $16 added just from the website, which is pretty good. And then we have a deposit bonus on FanDuel. So I had to deposit $50 to get $5. So pretty easy, free money. I put $50 in the account, and then I get $5. And I wagered on this game that's like Crash. I think it's called like Fly X or something. But I just put a 1.01x in there. Or actually, I think I did it manually. So it's a 1.07, but I cashed that out. Keep the $5. Another deposit bonus. This is a 20% deposit match up to $20. So I just moved $100 from another app into there, which gives me the $20 in bonuses. And then I have to wager it 10 times. So I do 10 games of Rocket. 10 games of Rocket. And just run it the whole way through. And luckily it didn't crash once, so I actually got to keep the $20 and added that to the balance, so that helped out a lot. But yeah, that was it for the bonuses. Just want to show that from the last episode. That helps keep the bankroll going with like pretty much free money. And show you guys a couple things I want to point out. So this is where I'm at currently as of today, as I'm recording this video. So I play backwards because I do all this bonuses, claiming, that sounded weird. I claim all these bonuses, I do sports betting, I do all this stuff in the background, and then I keep track of it. But then on video, I've only been in like 2 days per video. So it's like 4 days per week. So I'm moving pretty slow compared to where I should be. Just that's how the bracket challenge works. It's a little bit slower paced than keeping up with the actual bankroll. But my point is, you can see I'm actually at 1,300 in the bankroll as of today of recording, which is way above where we're actually at based on the recordings, right? And that's because we have the website balance is not carried down. So if I carry that down, that will like, it makes everything equal. So if I just skipped ahead to today, this is where we'd be sitting at. And I only update the website balance once I actually record, because that's actually like a live, update of that day. So the first thing I want to point out here is this total profit and loss column. This profit and loss column that I have highlighted over here, this is adding up the sum of the entire daily profit and loss. So the daily profit and loss is a little bit, it's not 100% accurate, because I think in the beginning of the challenge I didn't track it exactly correct. But the way the daily profit and loss works is purely off the website that I use. So when I'm playing in the website, when I'm playing the dice strategies, all that type of stuff on camera, that's only on this website, okay? So profit and loss on the website is only tracked in this column. And in the beginning of the challenge, I may have included some bonuses and like missed some stuff in there. I may have calculated this a little bit differently in the beginning, but this purely, the way this formula works is it just takes our starting balance of each day and our end balance. It takes the end balance minus the starting balance, gives us this number. So that's what we do in the website. That's all in video. Overall, in the website, we were down $68.40 out of 180 days doing this challenge. On the website itself, I'm down $68. So on our entire portfolio, or bankroll, whatever you want to call it, the website's not been profitable, but we're still at $1,000. So like, how does that make sense? Well, that's because I'm not including the bonuses from the website. So every time we wager and lose money, I get the weekly and monthly bonuses. So the bonuses are always being added, which helps increase the bankroll over time. And then all the outside casino apps, I get those bonuses and promotions are added to the bankroll. And then sports betting is part of that too. And then obviously the investment through Bitcoin is adding to the bankroll. So pretty much the website has been negative. The website gambling has not actually profited. I mean, back here you can see it was in profit, like almost 100 some bucks, 150 almost at one point. But obviously this new loss streak, we've been on a crazy loss streak recently, we're actually negative. But overall, you can see this column over here never really got above like 200 bucks. Even when we were at 600 bucks, this was about saying that we made about a third of it off the website gambling. But for the most part, as time goes on, you can see this is becoming negative. And that's expected. When you play casino games, there's a negative house edge on it, but like I guess there's a house edge, so your expected value is negative just playing that often. And the longer you play, the more that house edge creeps in. So you're expected to lose money over time gambling. It's not a winning game in the long run, which kind of is a weird thing to say on this challenge, how I'm trying to be profitable over the long run. But that's why I have sports betting going on, which is like technically can be profitable because you don't have like a house edge necessarily. There is like a gap in like the lines of a bet, but my point is sports betting, you have like better control. You can like find better deals and like flaws in like the lines and everything. So that is profitable. Investing money can be profitable if you make the right investments. So that's why I do that other stuff. But yeah, we're ended up negative on the website. Just want to point that out, that this is not profitable purely on video what I'm doing. Coming down to our graph, I wanted to show this too. So we're at 186 days in the challenge, which is really 20% of the way through. So I know this graph is like a little bit cut off, but I could scroll over just to show you, like this is what it looks like over here. But this is the tracker of like where we should be in the challenge. And if we look down here, we're like 180. So out of 925 days, that is, this number right here, that should be when we hit our million. Out of 925 days, we're at day 186, which means we're 20% of the way on the timeline of getting there if this continues to work out well. So that's something I want to point out too. We're 20% of the way there in a time frame wise. And then here's our graph. So like really 180, we're probably about like right here after this big loss. This is like what we hit recently on the chart that I showed you up top in the Excel. This is our loss streak. But you can see with the sports betting and everything I'm doing, this is the balance is at like as of recording, but you guys just witnessed this on camera, like right here. So the balance is still going up in the background. Sports betting is working. The bonuses I'm claiming are still adding to the balance, but the website itself is not profitable. So I just want to point that out. I don't really know what to think about that. I'm thinking that at some point I might have to start, instead of going for like very small multipliers, might have to go for like more aggressive ones, like a 50x, like that type of stuff. Play games that have the potential of high payouts. Just because doing small bets on very safe multipliers seems to, I don't know if it's profitable over time. We'll see. Just something to consider. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, leave them below. But I mean, this graph is still going up over time, so the sports betting is definitely a huge factor. I don't want to switch this over to like a fully sports betting thing, but that is right now the most profitable portion of the bankroll. So we'll see what happens. Maybe next episode I can show you guys like what I've been betting on. I won't like walk through my bets maybe, but I'll just like scroll through and show you guys that I've been placing those bets just for proof. That's what I'm doing in the background. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or suggestions, feel free to leave them below. Like the video. Hopefully, we'll get some winning strategies moving on to the next round, and I can start profiting again, get back in the green. But yeah, we've been on a tough loss streak recently, but that's gambling for you, so it's bound to happen. That's why I'm trying to invest and make things happen the other way, and other methods I can use. So yeah, like the video if you haven't already, subscribe, join the Discord, the link's in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.